By the way, maybe we should have Elijah Lade be special music next week. He sang the other day before 40,000 people. He and some of the other Homestead Harmonizers were at Wrigley Stadium, Wrigley Field, and sang the national anthem before it. I said Elijah, didn't I? We always hear Zach. He talks really loud. No, Elijah. So, I think really he should be the, head guy at the fair service. And forget Kenny, who bailed on the whole thing. I don't know. Stayed home. Not a Cubs fan? No. Oh, okay. Couldn't get off. All right. Anyway, well, we are moving into the next big part of the book of Proverbs as we get into these sentences that teach us how to deal with life. By the way, I hope you all realize that you are in this for a life sentence. You don't get off. There's no good behavior. Well, maybe there is good behavior. That's obvious. Is that what you said? Yes, that's obvious. And we're just pretty much condemned to have to serve the Lord for the rest of our lives, which is really good work if you can get it. And really, I've never done the book of Proverbs before in a sermon series, and I'm going to feel my way through this thing because I'm not sure exactly how to do it. So like today, I got about halfway through the sermon and realized that I would have, I do have enough time. The horses are starting. Okay. Let's all go clippity-clop with our hands. You got coconuts, don't you? Yeah. All right. Well, okay, we're going to be done early. So I had to figure out how to, it's just kind of a puzzle. So bear with me as I might change styles. Horses midstream. That would be a nice proverb. Anyway, let's introduce this part of the book of Proverbs. The next 5 chapters that we'll be studying, 10 through 15, actually, that's 6 chapters. The next 6 chapters that we'll be looking at are a collection of contrasts. This seems to be one of the themes that joins this particular section together as the person who collated Proverbs of Solomon and the Proverbs of all the other folks that went into this. He evidently started by saying, let's go with these contrasts. And so for the most part, a lot of these Proverbs here at the beginning are these antithetical things. This challenges us to look very closely at the slight variations that we're going to see between those people who are wicked and those people who are righteous. Because we have that back and forth between the two of them. The righteous and the wicked, we have a lot of those clustered right here at the beginning of these next 20 chapters or 10 chapters or so. And so we see that what the author is trying to do is he's trying to bring out the fact that these are ethical questions. This is a contrast between those people who are righteous and those people who are unrighteous. And so we have moral issues that we want to deal with before we get into more general things about right living. Proverbs 10 does appear to have an organizational theme. I think for the first, 40, 50 years of my reading Proverbs, I just thought, they just dumped them all together in a hopper, and this is how they came out. But there does seem to be a theme here, although not every proverb here in chapter 10 fits in with those particular themes. What we have here is we have a prologue. We have wise and foolish sons, and we have God watching over both of those. And then we move into the blessings in the life of the community. And finally, we have that fact that God blesses the righteous, and we see both the ends of the righteous and we see the ends of the wicked. Now, we're not going to get into those last 10 verses today because I just had way too much to say, and the horses are coming. So the other thing that we need to decide is how to read these sentence proverbs. How are we going to go about that? That's a modern-day proverb. The blog is mightier than the sword. So That one is not in the Bible, I don't think. The most basic and fruitful thing that we can do compares the two lines of the Proverbs. Proverbs are oftentimes just one sentence and then another sentence that comes right after that, and so we can compare them. We compare the apples of the first sentence and the oranges of the second and see how they fit together. A lot of the Proverbs that we're going to discuss today and in the near future are going to be those kinds of contrasts. But how do they contrast, and what is the contrast between the two parallel lines? So let's take a look at verse 29, a verse we're not going to get to today, where it says, "The way of the Lord is a refuge for the righteous, but it is a ruin for those who do evil." Okay, so we have two lines. The way of the Lord is a refuge for the righteous, and then we have that second line, but it is a ruin for those who do evil. Well, the way of the Lord is stated in the first line, but I think it's implied in the second. The word "it" is not found in the original, but you kind of understand that it's there. So the way of the Lord is both in both lines. Yet it's the same way is it's the same for both a refuge of the righteous and a ruin for those who do evil. The way of the Lord is a refuge, and the way of the Lord is a ruin. Well, how does that work? We have to figure that out. We have to understand that. The two lines of a lot of the Proverbs that we see have an element of surprise. You've all studied your periodic table. That's the element of surprise. Doesn't it? No? No. Some of you are going like, what? I thought that was really quite funny. Is it fissionable? George wants to blow something up. That would be a surprise. Yes. Anyway, the way of the Lord might be understood as the way that one walks in life. We were watching Balance Beam last week. Balance Beam, I hate the Balance Beam. Oh, man, those people scare me up there. I can't walk something that narrow, and it's off the ground, and I just don't like it. It's just, so it might be that the way of the Lord is how we walk. And, we see that a lot in the book of Proverbs. But is that the way that the proverb runs in this case? In this one, the way is a ruin for those who have never walked in it. So the second line defines the way of the Lord as a reference to God's way of dealing. Not the way we walk, but the way of the Lord as how God judges us. So the way of the Lord is a blessing to those who are righteous because he loves us, and a ruin to those who don't follow him. So the way of the Lord is a little switch, and we have to figure that little switch out. And so we understand how these two lines fit together. And a lot of times there is that little element of surprise in the Proverbs, so that the person who's studying them will not only learn what the proverb has to say, but they will have their reasoning powers challenged, and they will grow as far as their understanding of how to apply wisdom, not only understanding wisdom, but how to apply it in their life. A number of Proverbs speak about common themes like money or friendship or honesty. And so we can learn a great deal by putting them all together. All of those ones about money we can fit together, all those ones about speaking, all those ones about family, we can summarize their teaching. But this is not the way that the organizer of the book of Proverbs put them together. He put them together in a specific pattern. And I have to admit that for years I just thought that there was no pattern whatsoever. But now we want to look at them, looking for those patterns that we might see. The fact that the Proverbs are often brought together in contrasting or complementary. Sometimes they help each other. Sometimes they contradict each other. And we have to look at those things to see how they're fitting together and what the author is trying to say just by the relationship that we find them on the pages of our Bibles. For example, one of the most famous pair is found in chapter 26. And that one says, "Answer a fool according to his folly," and the next line says, "Don't answer a fool according to his folly." Well, you're going, wait a minute. The Bible just contradicted itself. How do you not answer a fool and answer a fool? Well, what the book of Proverbs wants us to do is to take into account the situation, take into account the person that we're dealing with. Sometimes you need to confront stupidity. Sometimes you need to confront immorality.